everyone. Welcome to NASCAR America Splash and Go. Steve Letarte here alongside Dale, Jarrett, DJ. The NASCAR Cup Series heads to the final race of the first round of the playoffs. And of all places, on the half-mile high banks, the world's fastest half-mile, Bristol Motor Speedway, where anything can happen. Before we talk about the competitors, talk about the nerves and the mindset. You've had to race there. What's it going to be like for these playoff drivers to try to find a way to advance out of Bristol?
Yeah, you know, so many times we think about Daytona and Talladega being so unpredictable, and those are the places that you have to worry about that most. But whoever sat down and came up with this schedule for the end of 2020 and the playoffs really hadn't had all of their coffee, I don't think, because they were not in a good mood from a driver's standpoint. Bristol is such a blast to race. And as a driver, you appreciate the skills that you have to have. But then you factor in how much good fortune and good luck you have to make it through an entire race there without something happening that you create or someone else creates. And I think that's where the problems for a driver, the mindset really comes in, is that the things that you can't control. And so much of that, you're talking about running laps well over 120 miles per hour at this racetrack, this half-mile track. Things happen so quickly. And, you know, I've gone back before and say, gosh, you know, I just couldn't miss that wreck. And then you watch it and you think, well, why didn't I miss that wreck? And so things just happen quickly. And when things are out of a driver's control, that's whenever you're the most nervous about a situation.
Well, and it's not any better for the crew chiefs, because not only are you nervous because of the action on track, you're nervous because this is a track where we can see a rash of yellows. And what I mean by is, you know, you run 20 laps and you get a yellow, it's not as clear as it was at Richmond. Should you come to pit road? Should you not? Now, as a crew chief, if I say, you know what, I think we need fresh tires, and I put my driver, you DJ, out there 15th or 20th, and then we get in a wreck, I felt like it was my fault, putting you back there in traffic. So the stress is going to be high. But let's take a look at our playoff standings, right? We have Kevin Harvick and Brad Keselowski who have advanced with wins. Harvick did it at Darlington, Brad last week at Richmond with a great performance. Denny Hamlin has advanced on points. So we know they're through. And in my mind, DJ, the next group, Joey Logano, Truex, Dillon, Elliott, Bowman, they're all well above the cut line, Bowman being the weakest at plus 27. I go with the theory of if the tires roll and the fender's clear and this thing pushes on the truck without trouble, I think that group of drivers should advance.
Yeah, I will agree. But that's when it gets interesting, because the next group really kind of starts, and he might have his own group, but that's Kyle Busch sitting there at plus 18 right now. Certainly didn't have the regular season that he's accustomed to, hadn't won a race, so therefore didn't have many playoff points coming in. He's had 2 good races so far, but and this is arguably one of his best tracks, and he's one of the best ever at this track. But well, that's not a comfortable margin if something should happen. Doesn't even take an accident. Flat tire at the wrong time, particularly late in the race, that puts you 2 laps down. Then all of a sudden you go from maybe running in the top 5 to running outside of the top 20, and things get very interesting. But certainly from 10th on back, it's every man for himself. You're going to have to look at stage points, get what you can, and then, you know, your other option is staying out of trouble. And for the two guys at the very end there, Matt DiBenedetto and Ryan Blaney, it's pretty cut and dry. They've got to win the race, but that victory lane's only big enough for one of them. So one of them's going to be left out there. I think Ryan Blaney is one that we have to watch, and that could certainly upset things up inside that top 12. If Blaney or DiBenedetto happen to win this race and move in, then the other guys that thought they were okay and had done a good job on points, all of a sudden that might not be enough.
Yeah, I mean, the storylines are abundant. I'm going to go back to Kyle Busch for a minute. I don't know, maybe I'm naive, but I think the stage is set. I mean, this is a guy that not only has dominated multiple wins, but he's swept weekends. He's won the trucks, the Xfinity, and the Cup. So we can talk about his car all he wants. And I think when you go to the high-speed tracks, your cars have to drive. You can only drive that thing as fast as it's going to go. I don't think his cars are as good as he wants. It's been well documented. Him, Adam Stevens are working through this no practice. Last week, though, he was very clear when we talked to him that while the playoffs are important, his body of work, his 15 seasons in his career is what he wants to continue. He's in his 16th season. He's currently winless. A win is more important than the playoffs for him. So I just feel like the stage is set for his comeback weekend. I think you go to the high banks, he can overcome some deficit. I can't have a bad car, but if you give Kyle Busch a 10th place car at Bristol, I think he can win with a 10th place car. Am I crazy?
No, you're not crazy, but I'm just going to close my thoughts on Kyle Busch in that with 3 words that he has said all year is still 2020.
Yeah, that's true. That is true. And for some reason, he can't seem to get it done. You mentioned the 2 at the bottom, Matty D and Ryan Blaney. Why I think they're fascinating is, you know, Matty D, obviously he's hard to judge because he was in the 95. Now he's moved to this Ford and for the wood. And, you know, what numbers do you go off from? But the one thing I think we can say with confidence is where he flashed his brilliance in the 95 was at Bristol, at that night race, trying to hold off Denny Hamlin. He was unsuccessful. Can he rekindle some of that magic? And Ryan Blaney, politely, I looked at the notes, will he hit something? Because he runs out front. And I'm not even saying it's his fault. You talk about the wrecks. Lap cars wreck in front of him. Lead lap cars blow tires in front of him. The man can lead at Bristol. He just can't get it to the finish, sometimes not by his doing. So I think they can put the pressure on. And that pressure will be seen at the cut line. So let's talk about those drivers. Almirola +7, Kurt Busch +7, Bowyer +3. Those are the 3 above. Kurt Busch, like his brother, magnificent at Bristol. Funny enough, Clint Bowyer, the same way. So there's 2 guys that are great at Bristol. Why? Some people will think that's confidence. Could it perhaps be more pressure? Is that going to make it more nervous, or do they feel good going to the track to have success?
Yeah, I think it's great that you have that experience to go back on and that good fortune that you've had and understanding you know, what you need to do and what the situation is. Kurt Busch has a lot of wins at this track and seems to find himself in the right position the majority of the time. Clint Bowyer, much the same way. He understands he's a short track racer, and that's what you do. And he understands what he needs to do here. I think one that's in trouble here, if you look at the numbers, is Eric Almirola. Even though he's run really well, the finishes don't show it. Finding your way there, just like you were talking about Blaney. So fast. I've watched him look like he was just going to dominate and go on and win, but you've got to get it to the end and figure out a way to do that. And I think Eric Almirola and his team have had a difficult time in doing that. As good as they were there, the middle portion of our comeback of this season, it seems that now they're having those same things that have kept them from shining and going and trying to win races. And I think that could possibly plague them at this track, and that's where it gets really interesting. I think Bowyer and Kurt Busch, even though Kurt has fallen off some, he'll find his way, much like you were talking about Kyle Busch. Kurt Busch understands how to get his car to the finish at this racetrack.
I have to agree. I'm the most concerned above the cut line for Eric Almirola, and I will tell you one of the reasons is because below the cut line, I have Cole Custer circled as a wild card, and here's why. He's not supposed to be here. Yeah. He's a rookie. He won a race. Now, he's earned it. I'm not taking away what I'm saying, but I'm saying as an analyst, as a sports predictor, the line setters in Vegas, no one said Cole Custer was making the playoffs this year. He's in. I said as soon as he was in, this just pads his record. It makes his rookie season more valuable because he gets to learn the pressure of the playoffs, how to approach it. Even if they don't go right, his knowledge is increased. Well, here he is, 2 races in, and he's only 8 points below. He's kept himself within touch. I think Cole Custer's dangerous just because of everyone in the playoffs. I feel the 41 should be feeling the least amount of pressure.
Yeah, I agree. He's got nothing to lose, and I think that's a very dangerous situation for the other drivers because he's very capable. He's got 2 races under his belt there now because of his win. He was able to run the All-Star race also, and I've read some things that he said that they tried some things in the All-Star race. That didn't work. Would he like to have some practice and qualifying before this race start? Sure he would, but he doesn't have that opportunity. But I think he's got a wealth of knowledge around him that has done well at Bristol over the years, with Bowyer and with Kevin Harvick there, to rely on them to talk to them about how to go about this and even race setup. And I think that's going to help him. You know, the other that's back there, William Byron, can he rebound here and get back in place? I think that his driving style suits this very well. He's really smooth, and we've seen him run up front at this racetrack, but can he put it all together to get himself in there? And a driver that I want to talk about too, that we think is pretty safe in getting through because he's had 2 great races, is Austin Dillon. What a great job he's done when these playoffs started. You have to commend RCR for the job that they've done, the strategies that they've had, and the good race cars. Good race cars make race drivers look really, really good, and he's getting the job done.
Yeah, you mentioned it. We haven't talked about him today because he did the work in the first 2 races. We'll see if that hot streak continues. And Byron's a fascinating conversation. He's not a rookie anymore. He's not looking for his first win. Check those off the box. What that means, though, is we have to see progression. Here it is. The next step for a driver like William Byron is advancing through the playoffs. You know, the best and the worst thing about sports are expectations. And guess what? The longer you go, the higher the expectations get. So we'll see how it goes. It's going to be fascinating. Don't forget, though, racing starts Friday night under the lights. The XFINITY Series has been a blast. Justin Allgaier swept both races at Richmond. Can his hot streak continue? We'll also set the playoff field for Xfinity. And then Saturday night, it's cut time. The cut race, round one for the NASCAR Cup Series at the world's fastest half mile all weekend long on NBCSN.
Hey Motorsports fans, thanks for watching. Make sure you hit subscribe before you go for all the latest news and highlights across motorsports.